Good afternoon, everyone. This is Anthony Alaka with Torrey Hills Capital, and welcome to the Labrador Gold webcast for January 19th, 2023. Hope everyone's doing well, and thanks for taking the time to join our virtual lunch. We are very excited to bring you Labrador Gold. They are a Canadian-based mineral exploration company focused on the acquisition and exploration of prospective gold projects in Eastern Canada. The company's flagship property, Kingsway project, is located in an excellent mining jurisdiction in Newfoundland, with road access to the project, nearby electricity, and abundant local water. The Kingsway project has already shown positive drill results, which will be outlined during the presentation. Labrador Gold trades on the OTC market under the ticker NKOSF and on the TSX Venture under the ticker LAB, and is currently trading with a market cap of only $36 million US. The company has a very strong balance sheet with enough working capital to carry out its planned drill program and an experienced management team with a history of gold discovery. So we feel that there is plenty of potential upside in the stock as the company continues to execute its strategy. And with the recent improvement in gold prices, we feel that Labrador Gold is well positioned to benefit from the positive outlook for the space. And now is the time to consider adding precious metal stocks to your portfolio. As Roger and I were discussing earlier, a lot of these junior mining companies, the stocks have been beaten up, and it's an opportunity to take a look at a company trading near its low with very strong fundamentals. So with us today to discuss Labrador Gold's operations and growth strategy going forward is the company's president and CEO, Roger Moss. Roger, it's great to have you on today. Thanks for joining us, and thank you for bringing our viewers up to speed on the company. Obviously, a lot of exciting developments are happening and with the company and the sector, and I'm excited for you to share those with the group. But before we get started, I just want to mention, if our viewers have any questions during the presentation, simply type your question into the Q&A or chat box, and we'll make sure it gets answered. If you can't do that, click the raise your hand icon and you can ask directly. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Roger Moss. Roger, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Anthony. It's a real pleasure to be here, and thank you everybody for coming out this afternoon to listen to the Labrador Gold story. I hope that during the course of the next hour that I'll be able to show you that it's actually quite a compelling story, and one that I hope you will follow along as we go through our program in 2023. So just by way of introduction of myself, I'm actually an exploration geologist. I am the president and CEO of Labrador Gold, but my background is geology, and I've been working in the exploration industry for probably longer than I care to remember now, probably on the order of about 35 years. And most of that exploration has been in grassroots, early stage exploration, such as what we're doing here in Newfoundland. But I've also had the opportunity to be involved in some advanced stage projects, notably in Colombia, Chile, and Macedonia. Most of the work that I've done has focused on gold mineralization and gold deposits, and I was very fortunate in Namibia to be part of the discovery team that found the Namaqup gold deposit, and that deposit was put into production by Anglo American, and was a solid producer for a number of years. And although there aren't any specific statistics regarding the tonnage and grade of the deposit that I've been able to find, it was certainly a multi-million ounce gold deposit. So being involved in that was very exciting, and I'm hoping that Kingsway will be another discovery that I'll be involved with. So with that introduction, let's just get started. Obviously, as you know, mineral exploration is a risky business, and I will be making forward-looking statements during the presentation. So please please be aware of that. And so here we are, as you're probably familiar with, Newfoundland, the island is an island off the east coast of Canada. It's part of the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, and our flagship Kingsway project is located on the island near the town of Gander. And as Anthony mentioned earlier, the infrastructure here is very good. Gander is one of the biggest towns in Newfoundland after the capital is St. John's. And there's the Trans-Canada Highway goes close to the project. We can access most of the property with logging roads and dirt roads. And those roads are usable pretty much all year round, with a few exceptions, being when the snow melts in the spring, when they kind of turn to mud, so it's a bit more difficult to access. Lots of roads, lots of water, and nearby electricity, and a very good base, population base with experience in prospecting and mining. So it's a great place to be working. The government is very supportive of mineral exploration and mining, and they demonstrate that in many different ways, including actually financially supporting junior companies with mineral exploration grants, but also in terms of having a very good permitting process. And prior to working here in Newfoundland at Kingsway, we had been working up in Labrador. And so we've probably been working in Newfoundland and Labrador for about 6 years now, and very, very happy with the jurisdiction that we're working in over there. As Anthony mentioned, we do have a good exploration team on the ground, and headed up by myself, who, as an exploration geologist, is very much involved in that in the exploration in the field. And right now we're in the sort of last third of a 100,000-meter drill program that started in April of 2021, and that's been quite successful, as I'll demonstrate in a few slides. And again, Anthony mentioned our cash position. It's right now we have $18 million, that's Canadian, in the bank, and no debt. So we're pretty well positioned to execute on our exploration strategy. This is a glimpse of what the share structure looks like. So our market cap right now is 46 million. Again, this is Canadian. All the numbers that I'll be referring to are Canadian funds. And this stock recently traded at 27 cents. And we have about 170 million shares outstanding, some warrants and options that together add up to a fully diluted share count of 190 million. We have some very good shareholders in you would most probably have heard of Eric Sprott, and he's our major shareholder at 10.7%. And we also have Newfound Gold, who I'm sure you've heard of, and I'll be talking about it a little bit more shortly. They're 8.2%. Palisades Gold Corp and Crescat Capital are funds that invest in junior mining companies, and they also have significant positions in the company. So a very good major shareholder base there that has been very supportive. So looking now at where we're at, so we're zooming in now to the Kingsway property, and you can see it here in the blue. And the one thing, of course, that you see right away is that we're pretty much surrounded by the yellow licenses of Newfound Gold. And this is a good thing to some extent. And but what I really want to do is point out this this drill results here at the Keats zone of 92.86 grams a ton over 19 meters. And that was the original discovery by Newfound Gold on their Queensway property. And these yellow claims are the northern part of that property. But that discovery was announced in January of 2020, and it caused quite a stir. And certainly I was very interested in what was happening there and the implications of that, and started to look for potential licenses or ground in the area. Now, most of it was staked up or withdrawn from staking at the time, but I was working at that point with a prospector from the Yukon called Sean Ryan. Some of you may be familiar with him. He's had success with white gold and on his own previously. And he had these claims in Newfoundland, which turned out to be right next to this discovery of Newfound Gold. So we did a deal in early 2020. In fact, I think we did the deal at the PDAC in 2020, and that's how we got two of these three licenses that you see here. And the third one we got a little bit later, when I tracked down another geologist who owned those claims, and those claims altogether became what's now the Kingsway project. One of the main reasons for me to acquire this was this black dash line here that you can see running up through the property from the Queensway property up through our Kingsway property, the Appleton Fault Zone. That's gonna be key, and I'm going to talk a lot about it. But the reason that we pursued these licenses so aggressively was that it was very clear right from the start when I was looking at Newfound Gold's information that the gold mineralization that they had found and the gold mineralization that was on their property from previous work was very closely associated with this fault zone. And so seeing this fault zone extend up to the north onto these licenses that Sean Ryan held was, for me, the absolute main reason for getting this property. And I think, as you'll see, it's probably been a wise decision and one that has played out well over time. So this is what just to jump ahead a little bit, and we'll go through some of these things in more detail. But this is basically what we've managed to do since picking up those licenses. So we're zooming in now on, this is the boundary between Newfound Gold's Queensway property to the south and our Kingsway property to the north. The Appleton Fault Zone, now here represented by these red dash lines. And you can see quite clearly now that these occurrences of Newfound Gold on the Queensway project are very closely associated with this Appleton Fault Zone. And so when we come up onto our property and we look at things like our occurrences that we've discovered over these last 2 years, Golden Glove, Big Vein, and Pristine, these are also very closely associated with that same fault zone. So as I mentioned earlier, it does appear to be a very prolific gold generating fault zone, and it's certainly one that we're very happy to have covered by our Kingsway project. We'll go through some of these in more detail, as I mentioned, but these are drill results that you can see here, and we've managed to get discover these occurrences and drill them successfully. And really, we've drilled 5 drill targets at Kingsway, and we've hit significant gold mineralization on 4 of them. So It's not a bad batting average. It could be 5 out of 5, but exploration is a tricky business, and I think the 4 that we have are pretty good. Just to point out here that from the boundary with Newfound Gold in the south to where the Appleton Fault Zone goes off our licenses to the north is 12 kilometers. So we have a 12-kilometer strike length of this very important fault, of which we've probably only drilled about 1.5 to 2 kilometers. So there's a lot more potential to be seen along this fault zone, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So this is a timeline which really shows you what we've done since starting work here. We started work in August of 2020, and it wasn't too long before we'd already discovered some visible gold in a quartz vein at Big Vein. And that was really the start of our success, and that we've managed to build on, as you can see here, throughout 2021 and 2022, and continuing into this year. We started the drilling in April of 2021, and you can see that it wasn't too long before we were finding gold at Golden Glove, at Midway, and Pristine, and then more recently at the southwest end of Big Vein, we discovered what was the highest grade that we'd intersected at Kingsway to date, and that was on the order of about 275 grams a ton over half a meter. So not huge widths, but very high grades. And then this one we reported just a week or two ago, our latest results here this month, 20 almost 21 grams a ton over 5 meters. And again, that's at the Big Vein occurrence. So I've talked a lot about the Appleton Fault Zone, and I don't want to belabor the point too much, other than to say that it is very important. You can see it here again. Newfound Gold's occurrences down to the south here, our occurrences up here to the north along this fault zone that just continues up and off our licenses up in the north. And what I'm going to do in this next slide is I'm going to take these occurrences of Newfound Gold, and I'm going to flip them 180 degrees and lay them next to ours. And what that shows you is that we have a very similar strike length from our Pristine occurrence down to our Golden Glove occurrence, as Newfound Gold see between the Keats occurrence and the Big Dave occurrence. That's about 4.5 kilometers of strike length along this Appleton Fault Zone. And so one of the things that I really believe, and something that we're going to focus on this year, is targeting between Big Vein and Pristine, and also between Big Vein and Golden Glove, because I do feel that knowing that there's gold in these 3 areas, there's probably more to be found in between, especially because this Appleton Fault appears to be so prolific. Now, if you'll bear with me for a minute, I just want to go into this, and this is a geological block model of some of these structures that are so important, and I just want to kind of explain a little bit why they're so important. And the real reason is that these structures enable the gold to get from deep in the Earth's crust up to the near surface where it's deposited. These are like the highways that we drive our cars on. And what we see is at depth, we have a source of the metal, a source of the gold, that's actually dissolved in usually high temperature hydrothermal fluids, so hot water basically, and carried up through these faults by a mechanism that we can think of as a pumping mechanism, and that pumping is triggered by earthquakes, the stress and release of the earthquakes that can move this significant volume of water up from deep in the crust up to where these deposits finally get formed. And you can see up at the top of this slide here the different branches of the faults coming out. And so note that this in this example, this first order fault zone would be the Appleton Fault, and then these other branches would be the areas along which those fluids travel to their eventual deposition place. I kind of liken it to driving a car along the interstate, and so you could imagine that this major first order structure is the interstate. You get off on the off ramp, and you're coming off along one of these splays off there, and then finally you get to the street that you live on, and you take another turn off, and then you park your car in the garage. So that's sort of how the gold is traveling through smaller and smaller structures until it gets to the place where it's actually deposited. So that's why they're so important, and that's why for us this Appleton Fault Zone is a critical part of the story. So I'm going to go through some of the discoveries that we made, starting with Big Vein. This is the actual outcrop of Big Vein, and the reason it's called Big Vein is the geologist was walking down through here mapping, and he came across this outcrop, and he shouted to his helpers, one of whom you can see here sitting on top, "Guys, come and look at this Big Vein." And when I heard the story, I said, well, that's got to be the name. That's got to be the name of this occurrence. And it's turned out to be a good name, because not only does it hold a lot of gold, some of which you can see here. This is actually a boulder. It's not from the outcrop, and full of visible gold, some of which you might be able to see, but these circles on the rock are all contain gold grains, and this one here on the side has been enlarged so you can see the gold along the edge of the boulder there. But Big Vein has grown from this outcrop to where we are today, and a lot of drilling being done, and you can see some of the results of that drilling here. This is 44 grams over just over 4 meters is what we see here, and we do see visible gold in the drill core as well. So this is quartz veins with visible gold. Unfortunately, I doubt you'll be able to see it, but you'll have to take my word for it that they are within these red circles. There's little grains of visible gold, and you can see that we have a wide variety of grades here, going up to 284 grams a ton. So that was that highest grade that we found down in the southwest, but also others 128, 50, 20. So it's a high grade system that we see here, and these are grades that are very, very comparable to what we see in Newfound gold to the south. And this is what I mentioned about Big Vein growing and really becoming big. The original outcrop is up here in the northeast towards the top of the diagram, and you can see that we've got a lot of gold mineralization in drill holes up there, and then it's kind of peters out a little bit down through the center here, and we're picking up another area down here at Big Vein Southwest, as we call it, that's just starting to develop. And this is, as I mentioned, one of the intersections at the highest grade that we found at Big Vein to date. So the exciting thing is this stretches over about 520 meters, and it continues down to the southwest. We haven't found the end of it, and it also continues up to the northeast. Again, we haven't drilled drilled it off towards the northwest. So lots more drilling to be done here. I'm not going to go through all of these intersections along here, but you can see that there are a lot of significant intersections that we've had during the course of our drilling here at Big Vein. This is just what we call a long section. So we're looking at the vein from the side. So this shows you what it looks like at depth, the surface being up here, and this going down to about 250 meters. That's vertical depth, 250 meters. And you can see this is up in the northeast where we had all those really good intervals of gold mineralization, and that continues down, and we haven't found the bottom of it yet. So in addition to being open to the northeast and southwest, we still have potential at depth. And we know that these gold systems usually extend for significant depths and oftentimes get richer as they go deeper. So that's Big Vein. We'll quickly go through some of the others. This is Golden Glove. This was another discovery made by prospecting and mapping. This is the outcrop that you can see down in here. You can see a little bit of visible gold in these rock samples here that were taken from the outcrop. And again, some very high grades that we recovered from these quartz veins, and up to almost 500 grams a ton in one case. And this is just a slide that I've compared essentially the four best samples from Golden Glove with the four best samples of Big Vein that we sampled early on, and then also with some of the drilling, the best drilling at Big Vein. You can see the comparable grades. So there's definitely a case to be made for this to be a high grade gold system. So this is something a little different because this pristine target or occurrence was not outcropping. So we didn't see any rock at the surface. We didn't, and so we had to drill this without knowing what we were really drilling. But what really helped us were these some till samples, which is basically just taking this material that's left behind by glaciers as they move across the land and retreat. And within that material, we concentrate the heavy minerals, and from that we can see if there are any gold grains in that material. And sure enough, this you can see here as in the inset an example of some of the gold grains that we found in this sample right here, about 700 meters northeast of Big Vein. And one thing to notice, hopefully you can see it, is that the grains, they have pointy edges and sharp points. And we know that gold is very malleable, so it'll bend very easily. And so the fact that these golds are what we call pristine, they haven't been modified at all by the look of them, means that they came from very close to where we took the sample. So we talked to the consultants that did this work for us and said, well, we know that there's a gold occurrence about 700 meters up ice from this. Could it have come from there? And they said, no, this is much closer. This is within 200 meters of where you took this sample. It has, these gold grains have not traveled 700 meters. And so that was really what gave us the confidence to start drilling. And we initially started drilling with a rab drill, which is more of a percussion type drill. And we got some quartz veining, and we got a few some low grade gold mineralization up to about 2.5 grams a ton, and that was enough to give us the confidence then to go ahead and bring in the diamond drill and drill it a little bit more significantly. And that resulted in the discovery of the Doyle zone here. And this is now about, it's over 100 meters strike length, very close to surface, this mineralization. And you can see it's quite a bit lower grade than it is at Big Vein, but we get some significant widths, like 19 meters here and 16 meters here. And of course, it's very close to surface. And the intriguing thing is that the rocks that we see here are very similar to what we see at Big Vein. So why we haven't seen the high grades that we see at Big Vein here yet, I'm not sure, but there's a lot more work to be done here going forward. And then finally, the fourth discovery we made, Midway, it's different from the other three. First of all, it's away from the Appleton Fault Zone. You can see the Appleton Fault Zone here in the red lines, and Midway is probably about a kilometer and a half to the west of the Appleton Fault Zone. But it's also hosted in different rocks. These rocks are gabbroic intrusions. So gabbros are mafic igneous rock, and they typically intrude along faults. So we do believe that there's another fault system that's coming through here that's enabled these intrusions, these rocks, these gabbroic rocks to come up. And the gold mineralization that we see here is actually within the rock. So it's not concentrated in quartz veins as such. It's more disseminated through the rock, which in some ways is good, because you can get much larger deposits if you got the gold disseminated through the rock. But they typically tend to be lower grade. One thing to notice here, I put up so Midway down here, about a kilometer and a half to the northeast, there's this occurrence called Cracker. This was discovered back in the 2000s, and we haven't done much work with it at all. But from the literature, they did get some good grades and grab samples from the Cracker. And Cracker is the same as Midway. It's hosted in the same gabbroic rocks. And so what we're looking at is what's going on between here. Is Midway and Cracker somehow linked? And we've done some geophysics between the two that'll help us target our drilling to come between Midway and Cracker. And if that pans out, well, then there's a lot more potential, because we know that there's another occurrence of the same kind down to the south, just off our property, called Virginia, and one off to the north called Lucky Moose. So there's these gabbroic intrusions that come up, and I'm fairly confident they're coming up along a fault. There's a lot more to be tested along strike if Midway and Cracker show some promise. So that's sort of a summary of what we've done over the last couple of years. I think we've done a lot. We've done a lot of work, a lot of good work, and as I mentioned, we've made these 4 discoveries. So what's next, and what's coming up? Right now, we're focused at Big Vein, stepping out to the northeast and southwest. So both directions. All the drills right now are at Big Vein, and we decided this winter to keep them in one spot, because last year we had 5 rigs in different places on the property, and it just became a logistical nightmare for the drillers to keep all 5 rigs running. So we're focused exclusively at Big Vein for the winter, which will probably take us through to about May. And at that point, we're going to be looking at other areas to drill. I've mentioned 2 already, the gap between Big Vein and Pristine. That's certainly a high priority target. We are waiting to receive some airborne geophysics that will help us target our drilling in that 700-meter gap between the two. And then I mentioned also midway to Cracker, we are in the process of developing targets to drill in between there. But of course, we already know that we have mineralization at Midway and Pristine, so we're going to be doing more follow-up drilling there as well. And in addition to drilling between and around the currently known occurrences, we're going to be looking for more. And we're going to be doing some exploratory drilling where we have some nice gold anomalies to the west of Big Vein. And this, as I mentioned right at the beginning, the gap between Big Vein and Golden Glove, it's about 3.5 kilometers. We don't know much about it. It's covered by a lot of overburden. And so hopefully the geophysics that we're getting, we should be getting before the end of the month will help us resolve what's going on in there and show us some good targets that we can drill.
Yeah, the grab samples that you at Golden Glove that you announced in August were really encouraging. Was that down, if you can go back to that last map, was that down right at the star at Golden Glove? And
that's correct.
Okay. And so, I mean, and that's on the schedule to be on the drill exploration plan for 2023 in that area?
Well, we've done quite a bit of drilling down there, and we had some initial success with 2 holes, but subsequent drilling as we went out to the northeast was disappointing. So that's why we've stopped drilling down there for now until we get this geophysics, so we can try and figure out what's going on there. Because you know, as I showed in the cartoon diagram, the gold utilizes different structures, and usually they're not the main structure. They're usually in splays off the structure. That's certainly, we know that's the case at Big Vein and probably Pristine as well. But we don't have a good indication of what's happening down at Golden Glove. So until we get that geophysics, we've stopped drilling down there.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. So that's really it. This summarizes, I guess, what I've said. We've got the 18 million Canadian in cash. So our drilling program is fully funded through this year. Great shareholders, and you know, I keep saying that structures are important, but they really are. And we have right from the beginning targeted structures, and I think that's been a big part of our success. But there's always more to be done, and I think we're going to be looking to really focus this year on some of those gaps that I mentioned, where we don't have as much information as we would like, and try and tease out the information that will enable us to generate good drill targets in those areas. And for those of you that follow, for those of you that follow junior mining companies or mining exploration in general, you'll probably have heard that there's no low-hanging fruit left in Western jurisdictions. Well, we've demonstrated that prospecting still works in Newfoundland, because both Big Vein and Golden Glove were found by prospecting, and those so you can still find outcrops of quartz veins with visible gold in them in Newfoundland. So another good reason why Newfoundland is a great place to work. All right, so that's it.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you, Roger. Obviously, you know, we feel that the company is well positioned in an area with proven reserves, and so you know, we're really excited for the you know, for what's in store for 2023 and beyond. At this time, I want to open the floor to questions from our attendees. If you have a question, type it into the Q&A or chat box, and we'll make sure that it gets answered. You know, you spoke a little bit about your background at the beginning. And so I just wanted to go back to that and talk about Navashab. I mean, you know, do you see any similarities between the two properties? Do you see any similarities in drill results, or was it something that was completely different than what you're dealing with right now at Kingsway?
Yeah, it's good. They're completely different in terms of the deposit type. But I think one of the things that really stuck out to me doing that work in Namibia was the way that the exploration was done there. It was very systematic, and it's unfortunate, I think, that a lot of exploration companies, especially junior exploration companies, tend to rush the drilling before they've done all the necessary groundwork, and I understand it totally. I mean, you know, the shareholders want to get drill results, and there's a lot of pressure for companies to do that. But you know, I'm a firm believer in doing systematic exploration and ensuring that when you do drill, that you have very good targets. And so I think that was one of the things that I learned early on, and that certainly was the case in Namibia. We did a lot of soil sampling, a lot of rock sampling, and the project, Navashab project, had been looked at by several other major companies before we looked at it for Anglo, and but they let it go, and they hadn't followed it up. So yeah, a good early lesson there for me in terms of how best to go about exploration, and not be too hasty to jump into drilling. But again, having said that, you've got to have understanding shareholders that are willing to back you to go out and do the soil sampling and the geophysics and the not so sexy work that doesn't create headline news releases. But it's in my opinion, it's absolutely essential.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, you know, your property is literally surrounded by newfound gold's properties, and it's probably no coincidence that they own almost 10% of the company. You know, if you connect the dots, I think you can you know, kind of put together that newfound gold, you know, which is a much bigger company. I think they're about 600 or 700 million market cap US, would like to consolidate that land at some point, in your opinion. I know this is all speculation, but do you feel like, when do you feel would be a good milestone, or some sort of like you know, in terms of like drilling or in terms of results of when you know, they might look to you know, take a look at the company and consolidate that land? Or is that not even on your radar?
Oh, it's definitely on my radar. It has to be. As you pointed out, we're almost surrounded by newfound gold's property now, and I don't know if you remember. I may be giving away my age here, but I remember growing up, I played the game Pac-Man, and that's how I feel. I feel that newfound gold is that Pac-Man about to swallow us up. But yeah, it is very interesting. Now look, I mean, they have a lot on their plate already, and with what they have to do. But I think, you know, absolutely, it makes perfect sense that the two companies should be combined. When that happens, how it happens, I don't know. My goal, and I think you know, for me to create value for our shareholders is to keep drilling and keep discovering more gold. At some point, I would think that Newfound Gold would want to at least have a conversation, and I suspect what they're looking for is whether we can produce some of the same high grade long intersects that they have seen at if we can do that at Big Vein. I think that would be a catalyst for them to take a serious look.
Yeah, and you said that Big Vein is showing some similarities to some of their holes just south of your property, correct?
Yeah, that's right. And it's one of the things that I think we're held up, and people say that we don't have a lot of the same kinds of intersections that Newfound Gold have. But one of the things that I think is easily forgotten is that Newfound Gold are using 14 drills. Now that's a lot of drill core. So they're drilling a hell of a lot more than we are, and obviously they're going to get more hits than we are, because they have more ammunition, if you like. So I think that's a big part of it. I think the success that they've had and the way they've managed to develop Kingsway is in large part because of their large treasury, which I think is still around 100 million, and drilling with 14 drill rigs. I think I remember Colin Cattle saying that Newfound Gold are drilling something like 5,000 meters a week, and most junior mining companies drill 5,000 meters in a season.
Yeah.
So it is pretty crazy.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, you're well capitalized. There are a lot of junior exploration companies out there that aren't, and you see them doing small raises, $1 million, 600,000, just to kind of keep things going. But you guys are very well capitalized. Can you talk about your cash runway, how long that gives you, and when you foresee needing to raise any kind of capital?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, our current forecast work is fully funded. We're looking at, I think it's about 37,000 meters of drilling left to do. We expect that to take probably most of this year and perhaps into next year, depending on how many drill rigs we use, and that will probably cost us about $11 million Canadian. And so towards the end of this year, we'll be running a little low, but still pretty good comparatively. We'll be looking at about $5 to $6 million balance. And I think in terms of when we're looking for money, it's the markets are, as we know, are often very fickle.
Yep.
And so if there's any kind of window, then it's something that we would look to take advantage of. And that was really the case. That's why we have the cash that we do. It was April, May of last year. No, it was 2021 now. We managed to raise $25 million that I didn't really think we needed, because we had $10 million in the bank. But this was a raise that we did. That's when Eric and Newfound Gold got involved, and I thought that it was definitely worthwhile having them involved. And so it wasn't really opportunistic, but it was good in the fact that we did it when the share price was much higher, and we both financings that we did were done above market. which was really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think being opportunistic when the market presents itself is a good thing to do, because you never know when those windows are going to close.
Yeah, and I think they closed for a lot of companies last year, and you were lucky enough to hit the timing perfectly, which is great. So can you talk about the process for permitting in Newfoundland in terms of cost and waiting period compared to other mining jurisdictions? I mean, you said it's mining friendly, but can you talk about how, the permitting process there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as I mentioned, we've always had a pretty good relationship with the government, at least those that we deal with. The permitting process, it really depends on what you're doing. Obviously, for like grassroots work like geophysics or till sampling, it's fairly quick. It's probably on the order of a month turnaround. But then when you get to drilling or trenching, it's a little bit more involved, and that can take 2 to 3 months. The cost, there is no cost other than putting together the applications, and but the departments that do the permitting are very reasonable. I've had I've had, for example, one of our drilling permits for the Pristine area had expired last year, but we hadn't drilled all the holes that we wanted to drill, and so I asked if they could extend it so we could drill a few more holes, thinking that they might extend it for a month or two. And next thing I know, I got the permit and it was extended for a year. So things like that are really great. And generally the holdup, like with drilling or trenching permits, it's usually with the environmental division. They tend to look at things quite closely. But unfortunately, I totally get why they're doing that. But unfortunately, they aren't quite as quick to turn the application around as the mining side of the permit process is. So that's where the holdups can be sometimes.
Yeah. I want to get to a few more of these questions. Can you talk about the warrants, what those are priced at? Are they in the money, out of the money for the most part?
They're out of the money.
Okay.
And actually, the only warrants left remaining are the ones with Eric Sprott and Newfound Gold, from the financing that we did in April, May of 2021. They are priced at around 70 cents and $1.04, I believe. That's Canadian.
Great. Yep. And so obviously you're surrounded, by Newfound Gold's properties. The question is, how were you able to manage to land that property and not Newfound Gold?
It was very sneaky. No, it's a good question. And so as I mentioned, when I heard about the hit that Newfound Gold had, I knew that the prospector Sean Ryan, who I was working with in Labrador, had property down in Newfoundland. What I didn't know was that it was right next to Newfound Gold's Kingsway project. So when I figured that out, I asked Sean. I said, "Okay, Sean, like we should put your property there into Labrador Gold." And he said, "Oh, Roger, yeah, that would be great, but you're the fourth company to suggest that to me today." And so it ended up being a sealed bid. And from what I understand, we narrowly beat out Newfound Gold in that bid. So it was, and I don't know, perhaps Sean felt more inclined to give us a break and put it into Labrador Gold. He was already a significant shareholder, of course, because we've been working on his projects up in Labrador. So that may have been part of it. Now, a little interesting addendum to that scenario was happened back in November, December, when the claims to the east and west of our Kingsway project came open for staking, and we tried to stake them, but all we managed to do was stake a few claims, a small area. But the people that eventually staked them, I got in touch with them to see if they were willing to option them to us. They said yes, so we went back and forth with them, and I gave them a proposal. And at the end of the day, Newfound Gold narrowly beat us out. So I guess what goes around comes around. We won one, they won one, so it's 1-1 right now.
Yeah, that's great. But it's great to have that property, and I think the more you drill and the more gold you find, the more attractive you become to them. So it could be 2-1 at some point in your favor. One more question. Yeah, one more question before we wrap it up. I know you made an announcement this morning concerning Hopedale. Can you just touch a little bit on that property before we wrap up, and just what you have going on there and what the plan is?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how much time we have, but I kind of expected a question about it, so I'm going to just go through here very quickly. Hopedale is up in Labrador, and you can see it here. This is Labrador. So Labrador is part of the mainland of Canada. It's north of the island of Newfoundland, and you can see the project is located there. These are our licenses in the red here, and you can see that they extend all the way along this colored map area, which is a greenstone belt. And the greenstone belt is, I think, from the southwest to the northeast, that covers about 40 kilometers strike length of the greenstone belt, which is significant. And we know from greenstone belts elsewhere in the world, they're very prolific hosts of gold mineralization. And the work that we've done over the past, as I mentioned, I think we've been working up here since 2017, and we've done a lot of work which has really kind of pulled us into this area. And this is where the news came out this morning of some of the grades that we had from this TD 500, which was an area that we discovered back in 2019. And basically what we have here is about a 3-kilometer strike length that's very anomalous in gold. Lots of gold occurrences along there, good gold grades, and pretty consistent gold mineralization. So this is not a structure, at least that we know of, but it is close to a contact between different rock types. So that's probably what's controlling the overall distribution of gold through here. So yeah, it's a great project, and a lot of work still to be done here. These are just some of the results that we put out this morning. This is the TD 500 showing. That's what it looks like. Great grades there.
Yeah.
And we had a copper showing as well, and it's again some really high copper grades. Now the widths aren't super, but that's still early days for this area. So yeah, that's a quick and dirty about Hopedale. And we have done work all the way down through here, and there are more anomalous gold. There's even some nickel down here in the bottom. So there's a lot more work to be done here in the future. But of course, Kingsway is really our priority.
Mhm.
We'll continue to work at Hopedale in the background.
Awesome. Perfect. I think we're going to leave it there for today. Roger, I want to thank you for coming on and introducing our group to Labrador Gold, or getting them up to speed for those who know the company. It's definitely the right time to be looking at Labrador Gold, especially with the positive outlook for precious metals and what they have on tap for their drill program for 2023. So we look forward to following the story throughout the year. Before I wrap it up, Roger, any parting words for our guests?
No, I think, hopefully you're now familiar with Labrador Gold. I think it is a compelling story. If you look at our market cap, certainly compared to Newfound Gold, then it's a baby. But we're on the same structure. We're exploring that structure, and it's exploration is always a risky business, but I do really believe that we're in the right place to make a significant discovery, and hopefully that'll be in 2023.